Like to call to order the meeting of the Parks, special meeting of the Parks Board. I'm going to suspend all the other stuff, and we're going to go right to the matter at hand. I'm going to turn the floor over to you to start with.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason for this meeting, I think most of us know. I'll kind of give a brief overview. We had a naming committee, came together, met a few times earlier in 2016. That committee brought a name to this board of Arrowhead Park for recommendation. This board approved that unanimously in a previous Parks Board meeting. Following that, there was many discussions, to say it lightly, I guess. And I was told there was 2 more names that had come to light. So once Mayor Clary came on board, we spoke, and he requested that he wanted the naming committee to make sure they were satisfied with their decision. The naming committee came back together a couple of weeks ago, in December at some point. I don't have the exact date, and they met and once again decided that they wanted to stick with the name of Arrowhead Park for the new facility. And so Mayor Clary felt it best that we go before you all to make sure you were good with that decision and no other name. That's really all we're here for. And I think, and from that, I'll let you guys and ladies speak and say anything you want to say. And but I would say we do need someone I'd like someone to make a motion on something and go from there if we want to confirm the name of Arrowhead Park, which was previously voted on.
Thank you, Brandon. Since Mr. Pike has seen fit to drag in here late, I think you were on the naming committee, were you not, sir? I'd like to turn the floor over to you for your opinion to start with, sir.
All right. Me?
Hey, welcome to the Parks Board.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I welcome the alderman out there, too. Appreciate y'all being here. I know me and Paula were on this committee together. Contrary to what some people may believe and may have said, there was a lot of thought process that went into this. We met 6 months, one day a month. For the most part, there was 4 consistent people there. And I mean, we did a lot of research on this. The thought process at the end was trying to keep a name out there that went with that area out there, that people knew what it was. 5 years from now, when you have people here that have not lived here their whole life like I have, they're not going to know. They're going to know Arrowhead Park because that's the area out there. That's what is associated with that piece of land out there. The other part of that equation was there's a lot of change going on out there, and that was one less thing that I thought we could do to maybe not change everything on those people out there that are having to give up a little bit of their way of life that they've known for a long period of time. That was my thought process. I shared it with Paula and them. They agreed with it. So I'll turn the floor over. I know there's a lot of people wanting to talk, but as far as my recommendation goes, I'm not interested in changing anything that I've already voted on, already decided on, already met on for 6 months. So, and that's kind of where I stand on it.
Thank you, Mike. Paula, since you were on the committee as well, you want to add into this, ma'am?
Well, I agree with what Mike said, and we did meet several times and looked at how parks are named and how they should be named and rules and regulations on naming parks. And most of our parks in Hendersonville are named due to their geographical location. Even Memorial Park used to be called Drake's Creek South. We just kept with that theme for Hendersonville. I mean, that was another big thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Campbell?
Yes, since the committee has been meeting on this, and we all appreciate that for the last several months, but I would like to know what were some of the other names that have been presented either before or since the decisions have been made, and any background behind those.
As far as the names is given to me, there's no other names that I took personally from the Parks Director standpoint to the naming committee. I didn't feel like it was my place to name the park. I wanted it to go through the hands of committees and the board level. So that's why we kind of put that together. We put some stuff on our Facebook page. If you wanted a name, you could call in. We would pass that along to the naming committee. Nothing was ever given to me. No names were ever given to me that we could pass along in an official way of doing it. So the naming committee, I'm sure, discussed other names. I don't know. I wasn't at those meetings, but I can't comment on any other names that was brought up.
I'll try to answer your question, Randy. Really and truly, the research that Paula did on how parks are named, we really didn't come up with any other names. We talked about how it was done, what it was done, what other cities were doing, what parks what other parks had been doing, and how you had to, when you come up with a name, how you kind of, the process to do that. And really and truly, it kept coming back to Arrowhead. I don't know if Paula shares that's how I remember it, so.
Not being any at the meeting, anybody else here on that committee, that naming committee?
Nobody that was there.
Okay.
I think Jimmy Head was on the committee, but I don't think he attended many, if any, of the meetings. To my knowledge, Mike may be able to comment.
He did not, and it was due to work-related issues. He's got a lot of work-related issues on his plate, so he was not there. The other people that were involved were two outsiders that are part of soccer. You can name those two.
That's correct. Jamie Bertotti and Debbie Oliver.
And then there was a lady, and I can't remember her name, that came to one meeting that lived out there. She came to one meeting. That's not a slight on her. She just attended one meeting, and then, she had other things that she had to attend to.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to make a motion, we name it Arrowhead Park and leave it there. I hope it's never changed.
I've got a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Frank, second. Any more discussion on this matter?
I've got a question about whether it's necessary. We've done it, right?
Yes, sir. Let me turn that over to Brandon.
I'm gonna be honest, I can't answer that because
Oh, I mean, what I'm saying is that I think I speak for most everybody. I thought we had already done this.
you have.
But basically, I think what you're saying is that we haven't done, we need to bring it back to you in the form of a motion so that Mayor Clary can take it.
Yes. Following, once it's voted on here again, and I would appreciate that, Mayor Clary or an alderman will sponsor a resolution. We will take this to the general committee, and once it gets to general committee, it will go to BOMA for a one-time resolution vote.
Okay.
So that's the process. Before, we took the resolution after this last time and had a sponsor, and then many things went on that I will not comment on camera, and it died. And so,
Can I
Surely.
say
Go
one
ahead.
thing? First of all, I appreciate Bobby doing that, recommending, and Darren seconded it. I do want to say one more thing, and I have shared this with Mr. Clary. I want this time, if at all possible, to go through the way it's supposed to go through. If it gets turned down and comes back and we've got to meet again and do it, so be it. But it is supposed to go through the proper channels all the way to the end. And I would appreciate, from being on this board, the respect that happens.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Hassan.
Yes, sir.
If necessary for the purposes of that happening, should the motion be amended that this board votes to re-present the previous decision? Since it went through once, this board unanimously, should our motion be, and I'll be happy to make it, but just for the purposes of keeping parliamentary procedure, should the motion be the board?
I think that all depends on if it, again, I'm fuzzy on the whole thing about it has officially, that's why I ask you, was there something that we did as a body the first time that wasn't proper?
No, sir. No, sir. I think this boils down to, as I said earlier, there was a couple other names, and honestly, and Mayor Clary's welcome to speak on this. I think with the change in administration previously, go ahead.
No, I mean.
Okay, he was ready. He looked ready to speak. I was giving it up. I think once you guys and ladies had voted on this previously, and to take this to general committee, there was a couple other names brought up by, well, one name in particular by a specific alderman, and there was a lot of discussion behind the scenes, and we decided, I say we, Mr. Bradley, Tony Bradley, and myself, and Mayor Foster at the time, just to hold off until the new administration come in, to go back with the resolution to the general committee. However, after speaking with Mr. Clary, Mayor Clary, he wanted to make sure that the naming committee and you all were happy with this decision. I think it made him feel comfortable, which is completely understandable, new administration. So we're kind of just repeating the process with the naming committee and with you all. So we just need a motion up here to vote on it and confirm it. And then once we get that, Mayor Clary and I will get the resolution written up. Actually, I think it's already written up previously. Kay's got it in her office, and we'll go from there.
That being said, Bobby, go ahead, Ham.
Am I on that? Yeah. Just to add to that and to expound on what Brandon said, I think from my research or whatever you want to call it into this, the naming committee was actively working, and then Mayor Foster still in office. Okay, I think a lot of the confusion was the names, and I don't even know who the other names were that were presented. And Mayor Foster did not want to make a decision knowing that there would be a new mayor. He didn't want to cross that line of forcing, if you will, a new mayor, a new administration to accept his decision. And I compliment him on that. And I think that's where a lot of this fog on this matter is coming from. That in the naming issue, Mayor Foster wanted to hold off. The naming committee had done their due diligence. There were other names that were brought in that were not brought to bear on this. Everybody stuck with Arrowhead, and Mayor Clary is now the new mayor, and it's his position to push this forward. So I think the cloud of a former administration, a new administration, and along with other names being brought into the naming committee that had done their job, is probably the thing that muddied up the water. And if I can just suggest to you, I think I personally like Arrowhead. But just remember this: when it comes to the board, you know the old saying, 7 votes can do anything. So the board can either, at the board level, change it or send it back. But I will personally speak to keeping it at Arrowhead, because I believe geographic designations are the best. But I just wanted to put that out there, that may have been a lot of what clouded this issue up, was former mayor didn't want to force a new mayor to accept one of his decisions, and I think that was a good move.
Yeah, and I want to kind of echo that a little bit. And I talked about once it got to the point to go, just before we went to general committee, there was a specific alderman who wanted a different name. There was some talk back and forth, and I think that Mayor Foster realized, and when we talked and with Attorney Bradley, we all sat down, we said, we might just want to hold up because we may have some new aldermen as well, and we do have 2 of those new aldermen as well on the board, in addition to a new mayor. So I think it's kind of like what Alderman Frost said. It's kind of hindsight's 2020. Probably should have held up, but it is what it is. We're here now, and we need to move forward, and we need to have a name for a park when we open it up in about 60 days. So that's it.
Do you want to alter that motion, sir?
How you want me to alter it? I like the name of Arrowhead. I believe what the committee said, and I think we should go forward what the committee done.
I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I think a motion should be that we go forward with what we've already done. Confirm what we've already
The
done.
committee brought it back and they voted on it, so I think we need to take it back and say this is what we decided.
All right, for a matter of record, I'm not going to put words in your
Okay.
mouth, but
I make a motion, we name it Arrowhead Park, just like the committee came back to this board, and that was their recommendation. We sent it there once, now it's back. I want to take it back to the board. We want to name it Arrowhead Park.
that'd be fine. All right, I think we need to vote on that again, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I've got a first and a second, Mr. Pike and Mr. Frank. More discussion on it? I'm going to say that, first and foremost, that I want to thank the naming committee, because quite frankly, until I did a little research in it, I thought maybe they might have got together for 20 minutes and it was over with. But they did, as you said, due diligence on this. And when I found out that you did research on naming of parks and the thing, I want to say thank you to y'all on that. I also want to give Mayor Clary a chance to say something if you'd like, sir. This is great. I've always wanted to do this. State your name.
My name is Jamie Clary. I live at 125 North Shadow Haven Way, Hendersonville, Tennessee. I appreciate what y'all are doing here. What I didn't want to get in the situation where we jumped over you is that we had the naming committee go back and consider any possibilities, the 2 other suggestions, any other suggestions people wanted to make, and then we go straight to the general committee. I didn't want to skip over y'all. The naming committee is supposed to report to y'all. And I fear that if we did that, first off, it would be unfair. Second off, we would get to the board level and people would raise questions about why we skipped the Parks Board. And we shouldn't do that. I appreciate y'all's time on this, and hopefully we'll get a name in the next month or so, because that park's going to get used in
Yes, sir.
early February. So we need to have that happen. So, anything specific you want me to talk about, Ken?
No, I do not. I just want anyone to have any questions, Mr. Clary. I did know your name, by the way, so that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Brad.
I've got a first and a second. One more chance for discussion. I'll say I'm sorry? Nope. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And it passed. So now you have the power, and go forth and prosper. So
I don't have any power.
And I guess I still have to have a motion to go away from here. Mr. Pike, Mr. White, and we're out of here. Thank you.